Mr. Lloyd, thank you very much. At this time, we will take questions from the media to the various presenters here. I already see Joseph Thomas, the regular, with a question.
Thank you very much. Actually, I want to begin my questionnaires by forwarding this question from a listener out of Barbados, Mr. Julian Rogers. He's listening, and he has asked to provide the name of the company expected to build the 1,000 prefab or prefabricated homes. I don't know if the Honourable Minister might be in a position to give us that, or the Permanent Secretary. And of course, I have a number of questions myself. So the name of the company expected to.
Okay, the name of the company in Barbados is Preconco, and what they're building is precast, pre-stressed concrete homes, and they can come either in concrete roof or in wooden roof. But they have a subsidiary company in St. Lucia, which is Sustainable Housing Solutions Limited, SHSL. But it's a subsidiary company registered, Blackmore, in St. Lucia. But the parent company is Preconco out of Barbados, and the SHSL, Sustainable Housing Solutions Limited, is registered in St. Lucia.
Thank you very much, Minister. Mr. Lloyd, this question is for you. Since you're the last speaker, I'm going to start with you. The whole question of the cost involved in, the rebuilding process in terms of the housing stock. I don't think you provided us with some details as far as that is concerned. Could you do that for us, please?
Okay, thanks very much. Based on the data that we have at hand, for the various categories, we have buildings with no damage, the slightly damaged building, the completely destroyed buildings, the highly damaged buildings, and so on. We have tagged an initial figure of some $1.5 billion to reconstruct, repairs, and whatever. It's actually $1.5 billion as it stands now. That figure is preliminary in nature. It came out of a rapid assessment of the damage that was conducted right after the hurricane. Our building damage assessment that we are presently conducting will better inform us when it is fully completed. But as it is now, we are tagged at 1.5 billion Eastern Caribbean dollars. Cost of damages.
I notice a lot of emphasis has been placed on the 90%. It would seem as if that in terms of the damage that was done, have you not, or have you, or has your office looked at the 10%, the so-called 10% that were not damaged? Because even if those with the concrete roofs, even if they were not impeded somewhat, even if windows were not broken, there is a lot. In fact, the house in which I live, a lot of seepage with water, that sort of thing. Is there some sort of assessment to those structures to determine the vulnerability of them in the future as far as that is concerned? Because yes, I may not have gotten blown away, I may have gotten a little bit of water, whatever it is, that would certainly, do something to the structure. So is there a sort of assessment going around that will determine the real strength of that sort of structure, say, going forward for a next storm, whatever?
Okay, I'm with you on that. The assessment that we're carrying out really encompasses all buildings, including those that are not damaged. Where possible, we will make further recommendations, because basically we have teams out there, like I said earlier. We have persons with certain levels of technical competencies. Where possible, we will refer certain structures to, let's say, an engineer for further evaluation. But all buildings are being assessed, even buildings that were not damaged. I live in a building with a concrete roof myself, and that is part of the general assessment. So it's really 100% of buildings are being assessed. And part of the assessment, the damage assessment, one component of it that will come out in the end is what we refer to as a building census. Although we have some information from the Statistics Division, but that was information from 2011. So out of that exercise will be what we refer to as a building census. So we'll have, for instance, the total number of concrete buildings, the total number of timber buildings, the total number of mixed constructed buildings, timber and concrete. So I think it's a very essential exercise, and a lot of decisions could be made later on based on the information contained or that will be gathered from that exercise.
Mr. Jules, good day to you, sir. I think you mentioned about building back better. And the question which comes to mind for me is how do we go about, and I think mention was made by the Honorable Minister and Mr. Blackmore about, adhering to codes and whatever it is and the supervision which goes into. The thinking is that pre-Maria that a lot of supervision wasn't or didn't go into the structures that were being built. How is the division expected to look at that in its projection in terms of supervising, making sure that those codes and ethics are being adhered to?
To your question, Mr. Joseph, I will hasten to add that the Housing Division, the Ministry of Housing, we're primarily responsible for, as it relates to housing, construction of houses, home repairs for the government of Dominica. But when it comes to adherence to codes, that really falls under the ambit of the Ministry of Planning, the Physical Planning Division. Nonetheless, I always say that we at the Ministry of Housing, we don't exonerate ourselves because we are all one in the same boat. And so something is brought to the attention of the Ministry of Housing. We do have technical officers. We go out and assist in that process. But by and large, when one has plans drawn, it is sent to the Physical Planning Division, and upon approval, the house owner gets a set of plans, their set of plans approved. And the development control officers of the Physical Planning Division are the ones who go out to conduct all of these inspections to ensure that persons are constructing as per the approved plans. Nonetheless, I'm saying that we are homeowners, and if we choose to take shortcuts, it's to our detriment. I think Maria has awakened all of us, and I don't think that there is any homeowner now who's going to endeavor to take any shortcuts. In fact, when Mr. Phillips was conducting the training, we really asked homeowners to come. And the number of homeowners who now came out and participated and benefited from that training, they're now referring to themselves as watchdogs for the builders and contractors who are going to construct for them. Okay, so I think there is a certain level of empowerment and active citizenship happening, because it is your home, it is your biggest lifetime investment that will be compromised if you, the homeowner, don't pay attention to it. Yes, it is a very technical subject, construction, but it is not one that is so technical that each and every person who resides under a house should not pay attention to. Yeah, so we are our own supervisors as well as the Ministry of Housing, as the Physical Planning Division.
All right, I seem to be the only one asking questions here, but I have just one final, well, probably not a question. We're accustomed to the phrase in Dominica, tout chaud, tout flamme. You know, we start something, and, you know, after a couple of months, we just, you know, sideline it for some reason. I am hoping that with all the players involved, the Government Information Service, for instance, your department, your division, we will see a continuous presence a continuous mindset that we've got to, do this thing right all of the time. I'm hoping that all the players will will be part of the process, that the Ministry of Housing, the Housing Division, whatever it is, physical planning, will come on board and ensure that there is a continuous presence of video or whatever it is, so that people continue to build better. And in terms of policing it, I would like to know that, whichever division is responsible for doing it does it properly, and more so the homeowners, to ensure that we build a better Dominica, as it were, going forward. That is just my final comment on this whole exercise.
Thank you for your final and previous comments, Mr. Thomas. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I just will take the opportunity to thank all of the presenters this morning in this most important ministry at this time, the Ministry of Housing, Lands and Water Resource Management, and is headed by the Minister for Housing, Lands and Water Resource Management, Honorable Reginald Austrie. I will add again the Member of Parliament for the Cottage constituency. We thank you. The Permanent Secretary, Mr. Lucian Blackmore, the Housing Manager, Mr. Hilarion Jules, and the Senior Property Valuer, Mr. Bernard Lloyd. Again, all from the Ministry of Housing, Lands and Water Resource Management. We thank all of you. We thank the media here and those of you listening and participating overseas as well. One and all, have a great day.